This is my best teams video for Fantasy Cup, for the next rotation of Great League and of course Go Battle League. Today we're diving together into that format with my 4 team recommendations. These are the best teams and the unique teams that I can offer to you so that you can have a better understanding of the meta, be prepared against your first opponents and of course rise in that Go Battle League ladder. Following up the next days I will add a very good team as well, so stay tuned for that and be sure to subscribe for that team composition. So let's see what we have going on now, because we're gonna check out not only these 4 teams, how you can strategize them towards your advantage, how you can manipulate your opponents so that your synergy can absolutely overcome any obstacle, but also we're gonna check out their core breakers. With the first team composition out of the total 4, we're gonna see that we have the strongest core ever for this meta, and that is Registeel with the Azumarill at the back. These two have no weakness at all, each other complete each other, so we're looking at a pretty strong line, and in between of course we're gonna add up in there Haxorus. This Pokemon can always be used as a closer for any team composition. You can use it with counter and breaking swipe, but for the second charge attack I will leave it up to you, because breaking swipe is a must have, while the second one can always be something like a Night Slash, a Surf, or even a freaking Earthquake for all those steel types and the one shot. Also you're gonna get extreme good coverage against the fairy types, which is pretty great if you ask me, but of course I have here Surf that you can always try to copy from me. I think also that Earthquake is gonna have a lot of play against an Azumarill for example, so feel free to try that out as well. So how this team is gonna be played? Basically if you do not have a very good lead, you just want to switch out to your Azumarill so that then your Haxorus will be on a very good spot. The main strategy is to switch out, try to absorb as much damage as possible to your Azumarill and to your Registeel. Both of these Pokemon are extremely bulky, they can take the hits while they can take some shields in return, which is pretty great for the meta, and of course then Haxorus will be on the very good end with your amazing synergy and perhaps with a shield advantage towards your side. Now as a core breaker here we are having a Pokemon like Slurpuff, which has access to Energy Ball for the water types, hence the Azumarill is a fairy type for the Haxorus, and Flamethrower, which can be charged up fairly fast with Fairy Wind against your Registeel. So this Pokemon is going to be definitely a core breaker, but not that much of a harsh one. You can definitely play around it, and of course besides Slurpuff I do not think that you have any other weaknesses in the entire meta. Moving on, we're meeting up with a Turtonator team. So this Pokemon is super spicy for the Great League formats, but here on the Fantasy Cup it has a lot of play because of its dragon typing, able to do so much work against the entire meta with those fire moves, while you're gonna get walled down by certain opponents, something like an Azumarill for example, or even a Tapu Fini. So with this team you have nothing to worry about. Okay, Wigglytuff up in front is gonna be pretty good. The last 2 seasons were too kind for it because it got a massive move update. You got the charm for your fast attack, while the other 2 moves are gonna be the disarming voice and the ice wind for the nerf on the opponent, which is pretty nice if you ask me. Now at the back we have the Galarian Stunfisk, which can be used on this cup as a pivot, as a safe switch towards your sake, because this Pokemon with a simple Earthquake can do so much damage to the fire types, to the steel types, and of course you got the Rock Slide for extra coverage against whatever you might follow up against you. So as a core breaker here you're gonna see that we have the Escavalier, and that is mainly because of its steel typing. If I were you and I had an Escavalier up in front, what I would do is to stay in with my Wigglytuff. Doing so, you can do a lot of damage to a glassy Pokemon that resists your charm, but because of its glassiness, you can still provide a lot of pressure on their side, while when your Wigglytuff falls down, you can easily go in with Incinerate and of course destroy them down with your Turtonator. At the end game, I believe that even a single Earthquake or a double Rock Slide can seal the deal even against that Escavalier. So this Pokemon is a core breaker for sure, but not that much of a big one. You can always play around it, and of course with a little bit of synergy nothing is gonna stop you using a team like this, which relies a lot on that fast attack pressure, especially with the Incinerate and the charm. Next up, we got one of my favorite teams out there, and that is mainly because of Flygon. This Pokemon is super fun to run. Now it can learn the move Scorching Sands, which is pretty great for it, but also I think that if you have the legacy move Earth Power, you can still use it towards your advantage and of course to its full extent, especially against neutral matchups or even against something that you are afraid of. And that something can always be something like an Azumarill or another fairy type, I don't know, something like a Slurpuff for example. You can still almost one-shot down that Slurpuff or just two-shot down a potential Azumarill with those Earth powers. So this Pokemon is looking pretty strong either with Scorching Sands and of course have the chance for the debuff, or just go with the Earth power and you're gonna be just fine. Also you have access to Dragon Claw for neutral damage and of course easy move to bait any opponent out there, especially when shields are up, and this Pokemon can charge up so fast with its Mudshot. I do not recommend going for the Dragon Tail, I believe that Mudshot will be just fine. At the back we have a double steel backline, and the first steel type that I want to talk about is gonna be the Ferrothorn, because you need to go aggressively in there, try to bait out the fire type, whatever else your Skarmory might be afraid of, and then perhaps your Skarmory will have nothing else to fear of for the closing game. So this is the pure strategy that you want to utilize with this team. This is a pure ABB team style, and of course you have a lot of play even against Azumarill, so you can see as to how the backline can protect Flygon from those fairy types. So as a core breaker here, I have decided to add Sandslash, but I do not think you're gonna see a lot of Sandslashes around, because Lucario and the Escavalier will be all over the meta, and perhaps they're gonna keep it out of the ranking. So yeah, this is gonna be a good start for your Fantasy Cup battles towards the next rotation. Now is the time to talk about my last team recommendation. On this final team, I'm using Azumarill on the gameplay, but of course this is mainly because I do not have a Tapu Fini below 1500 CP, and if you have one, this team is just for you, because Tapu Fini can do sometimes better work with Water Gun against any opponent, and of course with Water Gun you get the ability to switch out much earlier than you do with Bubble, so you get better adaptation to any individual match up out there. So yeah, easy to follow any counter switch, and your opponent will be on a very bad situation if they want to catch any move of yours. So keep it with the standard moveset Surf and Moonblast, while Water Gun will be your main fast attack, and this Pokemon can absolutely be a menace for a lot of trainers out there. So at the back now we have once again a double steel backline, but this is no ABB team style at all. You can always use of course your Lucario to bait out an Escavalier or whatever else, but still Lucario is not the perfect safe switch of this cup. Or is it? Because this season this Pokemon can learn the move Blaze Kick, which can be pretty entertaining, especially up against something like an Escavalier for example, and if a lot of trainers do not know that, you might actually catch a lot of trainers out there off guard, able to destroy them down towards the end of the battle with that Blaze Kick, and then for your second charge attack you could always go for close combat, but I still think that Shadow Ball is gonna help you much more, especially against Azumarill and Tapu Fini. We already saw at the start of this video that a lot of trainers are gonna use Red Steel and Azumarill on the same team perhaps, so this is gonna be kind of a big trouble for a lot of teams, but for this team not so much. You can always play around it, and of course rely even on your Basidon on the end game, because if you didn't know, Escavalier is still weak to those fired moves, and even Flamethrower can almost one-shot down this Pokemon, which is pretty great if you ask me. Now as a core breaker here, I have added Azumarill, but this is mainly because of Azumarill's bulkiness, because it can still destroy down Tapu Fini in a soft win, has a very nice soft win against Basidon, and of course another soft win against that Lucario. But see what I said there? This is all about softness, and yeah, all those wins that Azumarill is getting on individual matchups on this team are gonna be soft, which means that with a little bit of synergy you can even overcome the obstacle of facing something like an Azumarill, so you're gonna be just fine even against that threat. This team has a lot of coverage and I really recommend it to you. So that is gonna be all for today, trainers. Thank you for watching and for staying till the end. Be sure to leave a huge like before you go, subscribe to the channel if you are new to my content. Good luck on your Fantasy Cup battles, and I hope to see you all into the next one.